Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are going to take a look at a figure that was the very first figure from a certain company that we all know and love. It is the Rebor Y-Rex, in other words, the Yutyrannus. This was a figure that at the time wasn't all that well received as far as its appearance goes, because with a Yutyrannus, a lot of people like to see their figure completely feathered, whereas this one is not. You can see it's a mixture of feathers and scales on this Yutyrannus, and I actually have always loved this figure from the very beginning because I like pretty much every and any interpretation of every dinosaur. We already have a beautifully feathered Yutyrannus from Safari Ltd, so I don't mind having this version that has only partial feathering to it. And actually, I really think that this one is beautiful, and as far as its appearance goes, it's probably one of the best as far as paintwork that Rebor has ever done, because I felt like the paint on this one was exceptionally well done, especially in comparison to some of their newer figures, which some of them do have some really nice paint on them. But if we look at things like their Killer Queen, like the paintwork looked good, but I don't think it looked as realistic as the paintwork on this Yutyrannus looks. And you'll probably be able to get a pretty good idea of that when we get a closer look at it, so let's go ahead and do that right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Yutyrannus, you can see that the detailing is incredible. There is just a ton of scales sculpted out into the head sculpt, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. But on top of having really nice sculpt work to the head and minute detailing to the head, you can also see that the paintwork as well is really beautifully done. You can see many different variations of color, including some variations of yellow up here on the snout and a little bit of red up on the top. But I think it's all been really beautifully brought out with that very nice dark wash that you can see on the figure. And I think that was just one of the biggest selling points to me, was just how realistic the paintwork on this figure looks. And you can even see that the eyes are picture perfect as far as the paintwork goes. That is one beautifully painted eye with a goldish coloration. And you can see that same thing over here on this side. Another really nicely painted eye. And again, absolutely fantastic sculpt and detail on the head sculpt of this Yutyrannus. You can also articulate the jaw. And this is something that you don't see every day, and that is a Rebor figure that doesn't have incredibly realistic translucency to the teeth or a really nice gloss coat to the inside of the mouth. Although I will say that the sculpt and detail and paintwork inside is all absolutely awesome. You can see it right here with that skin flap and the really nice kind of like dark reddish wash that they've given that. Same deal with the tongue. I think the tongue is really nice looking as well. You can see that tongue a little bit there. It's a little hard to get in there because that Yutyrannus mouth isn't the largest mouth in the world, but you can definitely see that that detailing inside is really nice. You can also see that the teeth are all painted really quite nicely as well. For the most part, they all do look really, really good as far as I'm concerned. So it's not as realistic as what you see currently from Rebor figures, but it still looks really good. And considering this was their initial release, I think it's incredible for your first release to have something as good as this. You can also see the nostrils sculpted out up here on the snout as well. And then once we start to move back into the body, you can see now some of that feathering picking up here on the top of the Yutyrannus. And I think that coloration that they've given it is really, really nice looking. You can see it's a grayish coloration with a nice light gray that's dry brushed over top to really bring all that feathering out in beautiful fashion. It really looks natural and absolutely beautiful. And you can see that as far as the scales go, we also have that kind of skin texture here, and you can see that it continues to run down with that really nice paintwork, some really nice variations of color included. You can see lots of different tones of color included in there, so it looks super realistic as far as the skin tone goes. The underside to the jaw even includes some really nice paintwork to that as well. Beautiful detailing here in the throat, lots of really nice skin movement being shown. As we come back up here into the body, you can see that the feathers then run down into like the shoulder area and down into the arm. So the feathers are pretty abundant on the figure, but since the lower half seems to have more of a scaly appearance, I think a lot of people were not really a big fan of the figure. You also have a really nice hand sculpt down here. Beautifully painted nails. They do have a bit of a gloss coat, so they look pretty realistic. And you can also see, again, the really nice paintwork all over this dinosaur. You can see some more kind of skin stretching off of the body right there. Coming up into the stomach region, you can see some more really, really nice detailing on the figure. Again, some nice kind of variation in color. You have some like black stripes that run down along the body, and many different variations of browns and everything included on the actual skin texture of the dinosaur. You can also see kind of the skin bunching up in the stomach region right there as this leg is lifting up and pushing into the stomach, so the actual detailing of the Yutyrannus is beautiful. You can make out the hip bone right there. Again, some more of those feathers start to run down into the thigh a little bit, but they stop right about here. And you can see as we move down into the thigh, again, more really nice color included. Again, very dark, realistic tones. You can see a few chips of paint on mine, unfortunately, but it still looks extremely nice and very realistic as far as that paintwork goes. And again, really nice muscle tone displayed in both the calf and thigh region. Beautiful kneecap there in the front of that leg, and as you move down into the foot, you can see the foot sculpt also looks really nicely done, beautifully painted nails. There doesn't appear to be any sloppiness or anything, and if we look over here, you can see that dew claw is painted, which is really awesome to see. And I think that dark wash, once again, has brought all this detail out in absolutely spectacular fashion. Same deal with the underside. You can see how incredible that scaling is down here, and a ton of kind of skin movement and skin wrinkles going on there on the underside as well. And what appears to be a cloaca here on the underside of the Yutyrannus right here, or at least that's what I think that is meant to imply. As we come back up into the tail, you can see the skin stretching off of that leg as this leg is really pulling forward, stretching the skin nicely right there. And again, some more beautiful color variation as we lead out the length of the tail. You can see it does have some stripes, some really nice white on the underbelly, and again, that nice dark wash has brought all that detail out beautifully. We also have that really nice feathering up here on the top of the tail as we lead out to the tip, which has a little tuft of feathers here at the end, and I think that as well looks extremely nice. And then as we start to move down the opposing side of the Yutyrannus, you can see now that the skin is kind of stretched here, but you also see some sort of hanging skin here in the throat a little bit. Some really nice detailing there in the chest region of the Yutyrannus. More beautiful feathering up here. Again, I love that grayish coloration that they've chosen for the feathers on the back. I think it was such a great choice as far as everything actually on this dinosaur. As far as the colors that they've chosen, all looks incredibly natural on the figure and just looks absolutely gorgeous. Some more beautiful skin movement kind of shown right there with the positioning of the arm and the skin stretching off of the body right there. You can pick up on how beautiful that scaling is once again here in the stomach region. Beautiful skin stretching now off of the body as opposed to being bunched up on the previous side because the legs are really spread pretty far apart. You can see this leg has reached back quite far. This leg has reached forward really far. So it is really nicely showing that movement in the dinosaur as far as the way the skin is reacting and the movement of the body. I think it looks great. Lots of really nice kind of skin folding and everything going on right there in the stomach region. As we move back here into the thigh, again, you can pick up on the hip bone a little bit there within the feathers. Very nice muscle tone. Again, some more stripes. As we lead down the leg, you do see the calf muscle looks nice and large right there. Beautiful foot sculpt over here again with a very nice curve to the foot. Really nicely painted nails. As we move back up here into the tail, again, the tail looks really nice on this side, just like it did on the previous side. Has a very nice curve. I don't think it's anything that's super unnatural that you couldn't imagine a dinosaur like this pulling off when it comes to the movement of its tail, and really nice sculpt and paint the entire way out. So this Yutyrannus, as far as I'm concerned, is a really nice figure. Again, it's kind of someone's interpretation of what a Yutyrannus may have looked like, and again, it's not going to be everyone's favorite figure. It definitely isn't everyone's favorite Yutyrannus. But as far as I'm concerned, I have always loved this figure, and I definitely still do to this day. Even if it isn't the most accurate depiction of a Yutyrannus, it's still beautiful. And then looking at the base, we have nothing more than like a really nice rocky area. But honestly, I think it is picture perfect for this dinosaur. And on top of that, it is beautifully sculpted and beautifully painted, given a nice dry brushing with a light coloration to bring out all the detail of the rocky area in perfect fashion. You can see the side here looks incredible as far as the sculpt work goes. The whole way around, it just honestly looks extremely realistic and very impressive overall. And definitely a really nice addition to this set. Many different kind of tones of coloration included as well, just making sure it looks extremely realistic. And then here on the underside, you do have Yutyrannus and again Y-Rex. And it says that it's from Rebor from 2014, which apparently was the initial release again of Rebor. I do recall them kind of promoting this figure here and there. and there being quite a bit of backlash, again, over the Yutyrannus not being fully feathered, but I was excited about it then, and I am still excited about it to this day. Now, as far as the Y-Rex standing on its base, the base doesn't actually have any areas that are like specifically for the foot to stand, because it doesn't have like footprints or anything. I mean, it is a stone, it's a rocky area. The dinosaur's probably not going to be able to put footprints in this, so you just kind of have to stand it on the base. I mean, there are definitely some grooves in the base that you can see that do kind of give you the spots where you're supposed to put the Rex, like that. And it actually stands pretty well. I know some people have complained about theirs falling over, and mine does fall over if you like bang into the table. But as far as its ability to stand, just right here, if nobody messes with it, it stands really nicely. And I think the overall scene taking place in front of you looks quite nice with that beautiful base and the wonderful looking Y-Rex included. As far as a size goes, for a length from the tail to the head, you are looking at about 10.5 inches or around 27 centimeters, and then standing on the base for a height a little over 5 inches or 13 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon next to our Yutyrannus from Rebor. And you should hopefully have a good idea of the fact that this figure is probably what I would say maybe a medium size range for a dinosaur figure. It's definitely not something that's overly large, and in fact, if you have the Rebor Ceratosaurus, which is another of my favorite Rebor releases, it's a very similar size range to the Ceratosaurus, so if you have that figure, you should have a pretty good idea of how large this Yutyrannus is, and if not, hopefully these three figures right here will help out. So this Rebor Yutyrannus figure, the initial Rebor release, in my opinion, is awesome. I have loved this figure for so many years, and again, I think it's probably the best Rebor figure so far as the actual paintwork goes. The only one that I would say that would come close to it, in my opinion, would be the Ceratosaurus, because, and I'm talking of course dinosaurs, like the Titanoboa had excellent paintwork on it, but like the dinosaurs themselves, I think that these figures, the earlier Rebors, were better as far as the paintwork in comparison to the newer Rebor figures, because they just kind of gave like really nice dark washes and numerous tones of color included that, in my opinion, all looked extremely realistic, and definitely the types of color that I could have potentially seen on a real living dinosaur. Had it walked down my street, I would not be at all surprised to see a Yutyrannus looking like this as far as its coloration goes. Of course, maybe not so much with the way it's sculpted with the feathers and everything. Again, that's the one thing that a lot of people seem to have issue with when it comes to this figure, is it not being fully feathered, but it's never really been a big nitpick for me. I actually can appreciate dinosaurs of any shape or size, and that's exactly the same case with this, especially with how realistic the Yutyrannus looks. Again, I have absolutely no issues with the feathers not running the whole length of the body and not being a fully feathered Yutyrannus. It probably would have looked really cool if it were feathered completely like this, and I would love to see Rebor actually take this figure and re-sculpt some feathers onto it. But even without the full feathered look, I still think it looks absolutely gorgeous, and again, the paintwork is just top-notch. As far as the sculpt work goes, I feel like the sculpt work is beautiful as well. If you look at the really nice, very fine detailing of the Yutyrannus, the really nice scales that are all brought out with that dark wash, it is just jaw-droppingly gorgeous as far as the actual scaling and just skin texture in general. It is just insanely nicely done. Also, the base is just as beautiful, I think, as the dinosaur when it comes to the sculpt and paint. So the overall package is incredible looking, and the scene that this kind of Yutyrannus just walking along on this rocky area portrays is also beautiful. I absolutely love every single thing about this Yutyrannus from Rebor. Definitely one of my favorite Rebor releases, and again, I really hope that at some point Rebor starts to kind of paint their figures with a little bit more variation to their colors, similar to what we see here. And I'm not saying again that the current Rebor paint jobs are bad, because they are not by any means. They are still really nicely done, but I feel like the overall realism of the paint was a little better on these earlier releases like this one here. specifically, again, is really, really realistic looking as far as the paintwork goes. So if you would like to pick this up, I will do my best to find a link to include in the description for you, probably on Everything Dinosaur, if they have any currently in stock for you to pick this up. It's a beautiful, beautiful model, and I highly recommend it. So make sure you check the description, pick up this really nice Rebor Yutyrannus, and make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.